Welcome to Certification Terminal, your ultimate certification Q&A hub. I hope that you are all doing well. In this video, we'll discuss questions related to business continuity, access controls, various cloud models, data handling, security controls, encryption techniques, a solid understanding on incident response plan versus disaster recovery plan, ISC Square Code of Ethics, and many more. Before we dive in, please make sure to subscribe to our channel so you never miss out on our latest content. And hit that notification bell to stay updated. Without further ado, let's hop in. Question number 1. In the realm of information security, what constitutes the utmost crucial element of privacy? Option A, protecting personal information from unauthorized access or disclosure. Option B, ensuring data is accurate and unchanged. Option C, making sure data is always accessible when needed. Option D, all of the above. The correct answer is Option A, protecting personal information from unauthorized access or disclosure. Privacy is a critical concern in information security, especially in today's digital age, where personal information is being collected and stored on an unprecedented scale. Protecting personal information is essential to ensure that individuals can trust organizations to handle their information responsibly and prevent the risk of identity theft, fraud, or other forms of malicious activity. Question number 2. Choose the best example for preventive control from the following. Option A, a firewall. Option B, a backup generator. Option C, an intrusion detection system. Option D, an antivirus software. The correct answer is Option A, a firewall. The three types of security controls are preventive controls, detective controls, and corrective controls, in which a firewall is an example of a preventive control, as it is designed to prevent unauthorized access to a network or system. The backup generator is an example of corrective control. An intrusion detection system is a detective control. Antivirus is considered as both preventive control as well as detective control. Hence, the best option is Option A, a firewall. Question number 3. What distinguishes a private cloud from a public cloud? Option A, a public cloud is less secure than a private cloud. Option B, a private cloud is more expensive than a public cloud. Option C, a public cloud is hosted by a third-party provider, while a private cloud is dedicated to a single organization. Option D, a private cloud is only accessible from a single location. The correct answer is Option C, a public cloud is hosted by a third-party provider, while a private cloud is dedicated to a single organization. A public cloud is hosted by a third-party provider, while a private cloud is dedicated to a single organization. Public clouds are highly scalable, whereas private cloud is regulation compliant. Private clouds are typically more expensive than public clouds, due to the additional infrastructure and resources required to maintain them. Question number 4. What security principle asserts that a user should possess only the requisite permissions to perform a task? Option A, separation of duties. Option B, defense in depth. Option C, least privilege. Option D, privileged accounts. The correct answer is Option C, least privilege. The principle of least privilege states that subjects should be given only those privileges required to complete their specific tasks. Separation of duties states that no user should ever be given enough privileges to misuse the system. It is also known as segregation of duties, concept of having more than one person required to complete a task. It is an administrative control used by organizations to prevent fraud, sabotage, theft, misuse of information, and other security compromises. The principle of defense in depth refers to using multiple layers of security. It is a strategy that leverages multiple security measures to protect an organization's assets. The thinking is that, if one line of defense is compromised, additional layers exist as a backup to ensure that threats are stopped along the way. Finally, a privileged account is any account granting access and privileges beyond those of non-privileged accounts. While some privileged accounts are associated with employee identities, other privileged accounts are associated with contractors, vendors, auditors, or machines and applications. Privileged accounts are accounts with permissions beyond those of regular users, such as manager and administrator accounts. Question number 5. What is the objective of implementing a security awareness and training initiative? Option A, to develop technical specifications for security controls. Option B, to educate employees about security policies and procedures. Option C, to investigate and respond to security incidents. Option D, to enforce disciplinary actions for security violations. The correct answer is Option B, to educate employees about security policies and procedures. A security awareness and training program aims to educate employees about the organization's security policies, procedures, best practices, and potential threats, promoting a culture of security within the organization. Question number 6. In your role as a cybersecurity analyst, your supervisor tasks you with producing a document that delineates the sequential procedure for setting up firewall rules within the organization's network infrastructure. What specific type of document are you creating? Option A, guideline. Option B, policy. Option C, procedure. Option D, standard. The correct answer is Option C, procedure. A guideline is a general rule, principle, or piece of advice. A policy is a high-level document that sets out the organization's stance or approach to a particular issue. A standard is a specific, often technical requirement for how something should be done or built. Question number 7. What is the term used to denote the process of eliminating or neutralizing malicious software from a computer? Option A, firewall configuration. Option B, decryption. Option C, encryption. Option D, malware removal. The correct answer is Option D, malware removal. Malware removal is the process to quarantine the malware and stop the damage caused by it. A firewall configuration involves configuring domain names and Internet protocol addresses and completing several other actions to keep firewalls secure. Firewall policy configuration is based on network types called profiles that can be set up with security rules to prevent cyber attacks. The conversion of encrypted data into its original form is called decryption. It is generally a reverse process of encryption. It decodes the encrypted information so that an authorized user can only decrypt the data, because decryption requires a secret key or password. Encryption is the process of protecting information or data by using mathematical models to scramble it in such a way that only the parties who have the key to unscramble it can access it. Question number 8. What distinguishes an incident response plan from a disaster recovery plan? Option A, an incident response plan focuses on recovering from security incidents, while a disaster recovery plan focuses on recovering from natural disasters. Option B, an incident response plan focuses on preventing security incidents, while a disaster recovery plan focuses on mitigating the impact of natural disasters. Option C, an incident response plan focuses on detecting and responding to security incidents, while a disaster recovery plan focuses on restoring IT systems and infrastructure. Option D, an incident response plan focuses on restoring critical systems and data, while a disaster recovery plan focuses on restoring business operations. The correct answer is Option C, an incident response plan focuses on detecting and responding to security incidents, while a disaster recovery plan focuses on restoring IT systems and infrastructure. The difference between an incident response plan and a disaster recovery plan is that an incident response plan focuses on detecting and responding to security incidents, while a disaster recovery plan focuses on restoring IT systems and infrastructure in the event of a disruption. Incident response plan's value doesn't end when the security incident is over. It continues to provide support for successful litigation, documentation to show auditors, and historical knowledge to feed into the risk assessment process and improve the incident response process itself. The incident response plan includes how incident response supports the organization's broader mission, the organization's approach to incident response, activities required in each phase of incident response, roles and responsibilities for completing incident response activities, communication pathways between the incident response team and the rest of the organization, metrics to capture the effectiveness of its incident response capabilities. A disaster recovery plan is a formal document created by an organization that contains detailed instructions on how to respond to unplanned incidents such as natural disasters, power outages, cyber attacks, and any other disruptive events. The key steps of a disaster recovery plan include: the first step is to broadly outline the major goals of a disaster recovery plan. Record your data processing personnel. Include a copy of the organization chart with your plan. List all the applications and whether they are critical and if they are a fixed asset. List the manufacturer, model, serial number, cost, and whether each item is owned or leased. Disaster recovery procedures, which includes emergency response procedures, backup operations procedures, and recovery actions procedures. DR plan for hot site and mobile sites. To get your system back to the way it was before the disaster. Question number 9. What is the main objective of business continuity? Option A, to minimize expenses during unexpected events. Option B, to maintain operations during unexpected events. Option C, to maximize profits during unexpected events. Option D, to maintain the status quo during unexpected events. The correct answer is Option B, to maintain operations during unexpected events. The primary goal of business continuity is to ensure that the essential functions of an organization are maintained during and after an unexpected event, such as a disaster, cyber attack, or other crisis. This helps to minimize the impact of the event on the organization, its stakeholders, and its customers. Question number 10. Which of the options below is an example that does not represent a possible model for an incident response team? Option A, leveraged. Option B, dedicated. Option C, hybrid. Option D, pre-existing. The correct answer is Option D, pre-existing. The three possible models for incident response are leveraged, dedicated, and hybrid. Question number 11. What is the objective of a risk assessment procedure? Option A, to assign risk priorities to identified risks. Option B, to assess the potential impact of risks on the organization. Option C, to implement controls and measures to reduce or eliminate risks. Option D, to provide a structured approach for conducting risk assessments. The correct answer is Option D, to provide a structured approach for conducting risk assessments. To provide a structured approach for conducting risk assessments. A risk assessment methodology provides a systematic and structured approach for conducting risk assessments, outlining the steps, criteria, and tools to be used in assessing and analyzing risks. Question number 12. In risk management, what does the term impact refer to? Option A, the actions taken to transfer or mitigate risks. Option B, confidentiality. Option C, the severity or consequences of a risk event. Option D, the potential vulnerabilities in a system or process. The correct answer is Option C, the severity or consequences of a risk event. In risk management, the term impact refers to the severity or consequences that may arise from a risk event. It represents the extent of harm, damage, or loss that could occur if the risk event materializes. Assessing the impact helps organizations understand the potential ramifications and make informed decisions about risk mitigation strategies. Option A, the term impact does not specifically refer to the actions taken to transfer or mitigate risks. It focuses on the severity or consequences that arise if the risk event occurs, rather than the measures taken to address the risk. Option B, likelihood or probability relates to the chance or frequency of a risk event happening, which is distinct from its impact. While impact and likelihood are both important factors in risk management, they address different aspects of risk assessment. Option D, vulnerabilities refer to weaknesses or flaws in a system or process that can be exploited, rather than the consequences resulting from a risk event. Identifying vulnerabilities is part of risk assessment but is not synonymous with impact. Question number 13. How do you define integrity in the context of information security? Option A, the maintenance of a known configuration, an unexpected operational function as the system processes information. Option B, the maintenance of a random configuration, an unpredictable operational function as the system processes information. Option C, the maintenance of a known bad configuration, an unexpected operational function as the system processes information. Option D, the maintenance of a known good configuration, an expected operational function as the system processes information. The correct answer is Option D, the maintenance of a known good configuration, an expected operational function as the system processes information. This can be a state of the system while it was operating as desired. This can also be state before the system started exhibiting malicious activity. Question number 14. What is the primary objective of risk assessment? Option A, to identify critical business functions. Option B, to evaluate the potential impact of threats to the organization. Option C, to define recovery time objectives for critical systems and data. Option D, to establish procedures for restoring critical systems and data. The correct answer is Option B, to evaluate the potential impact of threats to the organization. A risk assessment is a process used to identify potential hazards and analyze what could happen if a disaster or hazard occurs. The purpose of a risk assessment is to evaluate the potential impact of threats to the organization. This involves identifying the types of threats that may occur, assessing their likelihood and potential impact, and identifying measures to mitigate or reduce the risk of the threats. Question number 15. Which of the following options exemplifies an administrative control? Option A, firewall. Option B, network-based intrusion detection system. Option C, physical locks on doors. Option D, background checks for employees. The correct answer is Option D, background checks for employees. Security controls are the most important factor used to develop the actions taken to prevent the organization's security risks. Security controls are parameters implemented to protect the organization's data and assets. Types of security controls are physical controls, technical controls, and administrative controls. Administrative security controls include any security measures focused on managing people. They encompass a wide range of approaches, including formal policies, procedural guidelines, risk mitigation strategies, and training activities. Background checks for employees are an example of an administrative control, because they are a set of policies and procedures that are put in place to ensure that employees are suitable for their role. These checks typically involve verifying the employee's employment history and conducting a criminal background check. A firewall is a network security device that prevents unauthorized access to a network. It inspects incoming and outgoing traffic, using a set of security rules to identify and block threats. A firewall is considered as a technical control. A network-based intrusion detection system is designed to help organizations monitor their cloud, on-premise, and hybrid environments for suspicious events that could indicate a compromise. A network-based intrusion detection system is considered as a technical control. Physical locks on doors are considered as physical controls. Other examples of physical controls are surveillance cameras, biometrics, identity cards, alarm systems, and etc. Question number 16. Which of these is primarily focused on identifying and prioritizing critical business processes? Option A, Business Continuity Plan. Option B, Disaster Recovery Plan. Option C, Business Impact Analysis. Option D, Business Impact Plan. The correct answer is Option C, Business Impact Analysis. A business impact analysis is a technique for analyzing how disruptions can affect an organization and determines the criticality of all business activities and associated resources. A business continuity plan is a predetermined set of instructions describing how the mission or business processes of an organization will be sustained during and after a significant disruption. A disaster recovery plan is a written plan for recovering information systems in response to a major failure or disaster. The term business impact plan does not exist. Question number 17. Which term pertains to an individual's capacity to manage the sharing of their personal information? Option A, consent. Option B, privacy. Option C, anonymization. Option D, data minimization. The correct answer is Option B, privacy. Privacy refers to an individual's ability to control the disclosure of their personal information, including who can access it and how it can be used. According to the personal data law, consent must be given clearly and unequivocally by the user, who must have received detailed information about the management of their data by the service or website. Data anonymization is the process of protecting private or sensitive information by erasing or encrypting identifiers that connect an individual to stored data. Data minimization is a key privacy principle to respecting individual privacy and reducing risks associated with a data breach. Under this principle, only personal information that is directly relevant and necessary to a specified purpose is collected and kept for only as long as needed for that purpose. Question number 18. Which of the following options exemplifies a logical access control? Option A, security guards patrolling an area. Option B, physical locks on doors. Option C, security cameras monitoring a facility. Option D, passwords. The correct answer is Option D, passwords. Correct answer, D, passwords. Logical access controls are electronic methods used to restrict access to systems or digital assets. They focus on controlling access through electronic means rather than physical barriers. Passwords are a common example of logical access controls, where users need to provide a correct combination of characters to gain access to a system or resource. Security controls are the most important factor used to develop the actions taken to prevent the organization's security risks. Security controls are parameters implemented to protect the organization's data and assets. Types of security controls are physical controls, technical controls, and administrative controls. Option A, the presence of security guards is another example of physical security measures, not specific to logical access controls. Option B, physical locks on doors are an example of physical access controls, which involve tangible barriers to restrict access. Option C, security cameras are a surveillance measure that falls under physical security and monitoring, not logical access controls. Question number 19. How do you define internal consistency of information? Option A, data being protected from errors or loss of information. Option B, all instances of data being identical in form, content, and meaning. Option C, data being displayed and stored the same way on all systems. Option D, data being accurate, useful, and complete. The correct answer is Option B, all instances of data being identical in form, content, and meaning. The integrity aspect of CIA Triad safeguards against improper information modification or destruction, and includes ensuring information non-repudiation and authenticity. The property that data or information have not been altered or destroyed in an unauthorized manner. The ability to detect even minute changes in the data. Question number 20. Which of the following options exemplifies a corrective control? Option A, a backup generator. Option B, applying security patches to systems and software. Option C, an access control system. Option D, training employees on cybersecurity best practices. Functions of security controls are directive controls, deterrent controls, preventive controls, compensating controls, detective controls, corrective controls, and recovery controls. Directive controls are the mandatory controls that are implemented to monitor the regulations. Deterrent controls are deployed to discourage the violation of a security function, and it helps to reduce the chances of a deliberate attack. Preventive controls are used to prevent or avoid security incidents in the organization. Compensating controls are the alternative methods that support the requirement of actual security control implemented. Detective controls are used to detect and alert unauthorized or unwanted activities within the organization. Corrective controls are used to remediate or mitigate the effect of a security incident. Recovery controls are deployed to recover and restore the system to normal condition after the security incident. The correct answer is option B, applying security patches to systems and software. Applying security patches to systems and software is an example of a corrective control, as it is designed to correct vulnerabilities that have already been identified. A backup generator is considered as a recovery control. An access control system and training employees are considered as a preventive controls. Question number 21. What is the full form of the term Wi-Fi? Option A, wireless fire. Option B, wireless framework. Option C, wireless fiber. Option D, wireless fidelity. The correct answer is option D, wireless fidelity. The term Wi-Fi was originally created as a play on the term hi-fi, high fidelity, used in the music industry, and stands for wireless fidelity. Question number 22. In which of the access control models listed below, can the creator of an object assign permissions to others? Option A, discretionary access control, DAC. Option B, mandatory access control, MAC. Option C, role-based access control, RBAC. Option D, attribute-based access control, ABAC. The correct answer is option A, discretionary access control, DAC. In a discretionary access control model, the permissions associated with each object, a file or data, are set by the owner of the object. In this model, the creator of an object implicitly becomes its owner, and therefore can decide who will have permission over the objects. In the remaining models, access specifications are centrally determined. Mandatory access control is a method of limiting access to resources based on the sensitivity of the information that the resource contains and the authorization of the user to access information with that level of sensitivity. A role-based access control model uses a centrally administrated set of controls to determine how subjects and objects interact. The access control levels can be based upon the necessary operations and tasks a user needs to carry out to fulfill her responsibilities without an organization. An attribute-based access control is an authorization model that evaluates attributes or characteristics rather than roles to determine access. Question number 23. Which ISC Square Code of Ethics principle underscores the significance of continuous professional development and the maintenance of competence within the realm of information security? Option A, act honorably, honestly, justly, responsibly, and legally. Option B, advance and protect the profession. Option C, protect society, the common good, and the infrastructure. Option D, provide diligent and competent service to stakeholders. The correct answer is option B, advance and protect the profession. The principle, advance and protect the profession, of the ISC Square Code of Ethics highlights the responsibility of information security professionals to continuously enhance their knowledge, skills, and competence in the field of information security. Question number 24. The primary objective of a company employing ManTraps and turnstiles at the entrance to their high-security data center is to: Option A, alerting security personnel in case of an intrusion. Option B, preventing tailgating. Option C, detecting motion within the data center. Option D, restricting access based on time of day. The correct answer is option B, preventing tailgating. ManTraps or turnstiles are physical barriers used to control access to restricted areas, particularly to prevent tailgating. Tailgating refers to unauthorized individuals following closely behind an authorized person to gain entry into a secure area without proper authorization. ManTraps or turnstiles help ensure that only one person is granted access at a time, reducing the risk of unauthorized entry. Option A, alerting security personnel in case of an intrusion. While ManTraps or turnstiles may be part of an overall security system that includes intrusion detection, their primary purpose is to prevent tailgating rather than directly alerting security personnel about intrusions. Option C, detecting motion within the data center. While motion detection may be part of the overall security measures within a data center, ManTraps or turnstiles primarily serve as physical barriers to prevent tailgating rather than detecting motion within the data center. Option D, restricting access based on time of day. ManTraps or turnstiles alone do not enforce time-based access restrictions. The purpose of these physical access control measures is to prevent tailgating and control the flow of individuals entering or exiting a secure area. Question number 25. How do you define non-repudiation? Option A, the protection against an individual falsely admitting having performed an action. Option B, the protection against an individual falsely denying having performed an action. Option C, the protection against an individual falsely denying the occurrence of an action. Option D, the protection against an individual falsely accusing someone else of performing an action. The correct answer is option B, the protection against an individual falsely denying having performed an action. Non-repudiation is used for auditing purpose and tracks the activity a user carries out and ensure that activity is tamper-proof, thus maintaining its integrity. Question number 26. Which protocol is utilized for secure email communication among the options provided? Option A, IMAP. Option B, SMTP. Option C, POP3. Option D, HTTPS. The correct answer is option C, POP3. The Post Office Protocol version 3 is used for receiving email messages from a server. When used with SSL or TLS encryption, it can provide secure email communication. Question number 27. What is the term for an entity that exploits system vulnerabilities in a target organization? Option A, threat vector. Option B, threat. Option C, attacker. Option D, threat actor. The correct answer is option D, threat actor. A threat actor is defined as an individual or a group posing a threat. A threat vector is a means by which a threat actor gains access to systems, for example, phishing, trojans, baiting, etc. A threat is a circumstance or event that can adversely impact organizational operations that a threat actor can potentially explore through a threat vector. An attacker is always an individual, but a threat actor can be either a group or an entity. Question number 28. What is the objective of laws or regulations concerning data breach notifications? Option A, to notify individuals affected by a data breach. Option B, to hold organizations accountable for data breaches. Option C, to encrypt personal information to prevent unauthorized access. Option D, to prevent data breaches from occurring. The correct answer is option A, to notify individuals affected by a data breach. Data breach notification laws or regulations mandate organizations to notify individuals whose personal information may have been compromised in a data breach, allowing them to take necessary actions to protect themselves. Question number 29. Texas Incorporated, an US-based organization, wants to extend its services to the European market. Which regulation should your company comply with to protect the personal data of its European users? Option A, Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, IEEE. Option B, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, HIPAA. Option C, General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR. Option D, National Institutes of Standards and Technology, NIST. The correct answer is option C, General Data Protection Regulation, GDPR. GDPR is a European Union legislation that addresses personal privacy and data protection of EU citizens. Option A, Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers is a professional organization that sets standards for telecommunications, computer engineering, and similar disciplines, but it does not regulate personal data for European citizens. Option B, Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act is a US-specific regulation that covers the privacy of individuals' health information. It doesn't apply to general personal data or to European users specifically. Option D, National Institutes of Standards and Technology is a U.S. federal agency that establishes various standards, including in the area of information security, but it does not regulate personal data for European citizens. Question number 30. What is knowledge-based authentication? Option A, authentication based on biometrics or measurable characteristics. Option B, authentication based on a passphrase or secret code. Option C, authentication based on something you do. Option D, authentication based on a token or memory card. The correct answer is option B, authentication based on a passphrase or secret code. The three types of authentication mechanism are something you know, something you have, and something you are. Of which, knowledge-based authentication is something that you know, like a password or passphrase. Question number 31. What is the primary objective of business impact analysis? Option A, to maintain business operations in the event of a disaster. Option B, to establish procedures for responding to incidents. Option C, to assess the potential impact of a disruption to business operations. Option D, to identify critical systems and data. The correct answer is option C, to assess the potential impact of a disruption to business operations. The primary goal of a business impact analysis is to assess the potential impact of a disruption to business operations. This includes identifying critical systems and data, defining recovery time objectives, and estimating the financial and operational impacts of a disruption. Question number 32. Out of the following options, what can be considered as a limitation of discretionary access control? Option A, it can result in users having too much access to resources. Option B, it is too rigid and inflexible. Option C, it is difficult to implement and manage. Option D, it can be easily circumvented by malicious users. The correct answer is option A, it can result in users having too much access to resources. One of the limitations of DAC is that it can result in users having too much access to resources. Since the owner of the resource has complete control over access permissions, they can grant access to users who may not need it, leading to a potential security risk. Question number 33. What should we do when we found that a device is not comply with the security baseline? Option A, marked as potentially vulnerable and placed in a quarantine area. Option B, placed in a demilitarized zone, DMZ, until it can be reviewed and updated. Option C, disabled or separated into a quarantine area until a virus scan can be run. Option D, disabled or isolated into a quarantine area until it can be checked and updated. The correct answer is option D, disabled or isolated into a quarantine area until it can be checked and updated. Security baselines are used to guarantee that network devices, software, hardware, and endpoints are configured consistently. Baselines ensure that all such devices comply with the security baseline set by the organization. Whenever a device is found not compliant with the security baseline, it may be disabled or isolated into a quarantine area until it can be checked and updated. A DMZ is a protected boundary network between external and internal networks. Systems accessible directly from the Internet are permanently connected in this network, where they are protected by a firewall. However, a DMZ is not a quarantine area used to temporarily isolate devices. Question number 34. Which principle mandates organizations to employ suitable technical and organizational measures for the protection of personal information? Option A, data minimization. Option B, data subject rights. Option C, data accuracy. Option D, data security. The correct answer is option D, data security. Data security refers to the protection of personal information through the implementation of appropriate technical and organizational measures to prevent unauthorized access, disclosure, alteration, or destruction. Question number 35. In a healthcare organization, the access to patient records is determined by job roles such as doctor, nurse, and medical administrator. This access control method exemplifies Option A, Attribute-Based Access Control, ABAC. Option B, Discretionary Access Control, DAC. Option C, Mandatory Access Control, MAC. Option D, Role-Based Access Control, RBAC. The correct answer is option D, Role-Based Access Control, RBAC. Role-Based Access Control, RBAC, is an access control method where access permissions are assigned based on the roles individuals have within an organization. In this scenario, access to patient records is granted based on job roles, which aligns with RBAC. Attribute-based access control is an access control method that considers attributes of the user, resource, and environment to make access decisions. While RBAC can utilize attributes, this scenario specifically describes access control based on job roles, not attributes. Discretionary access control allows owners to determine who can access their resources, which does not align with this scenario as the access is role-based, not discretionary. Mandatory access control is a policy-driven access control method where access decisions are enforced by the system based on predefined policies rather than individual job roles. Question number 36. In the realm of cybersecurity, what does the term asset refer to? Option A, a gap or weakness in protection efforts. Option B, the means by which a threat actor carries out their objectives. Option C, something in need of protection. Option D, a person or thing that takes action to exploit a target organization's system vulnerabilities. The correct answer is option C, something in need of protection. Asset can be anything tangible such as a computer or a server of intangible like a database. Question number 37. What sets apart a risk assessment from a vulnerability assessment? Option A, a risk assessment and a vulnerability assessment are the same thing. Option B, a risk assessment identifies specific vulnerabilities, while a vulnerability assessment evaluates the potential impact of threats. Option C, a risk assessment evaluates the potential impact of threats, while a vulnerability assessment identifies specific vulnerabilities. Option D, a risk assessment and a vulnerability assessment are both methods of testing the effectiveness of security controls. The correct answer is option C, a risk assessment evaluates the potential impact of threats, while a vulnerability assessment identifies specific vulnerabilities. The steps needed to manage a risk are: identify hazards, assess the risks, control the risks, record your findings, and review the controls. The vulnerability assessment process includes vulnerability identification, vulnerability analysis, prioritizing of vulnerabilities, and remediation. Question number 38. Out of the following options, what is not a benefit of network segmentation? Option A, easier network management. Option B, better compliance with regulatory requirements. Option C, improved network security. Option D, increased network performance. The correct answer is Option A, easier network management. Network segmentation can make network management more complex, as there are more sub-networks to manage. However, the benefits of improved security, compliance, and performance usually outweigh this added complexity. Question number 39. Which access control model allows for access to a specific object based on intricate rules? Option A, Discretionary Access Control, DAC. Option B, Role-Based Access Control, RBAC. Option C, Attribute-Based Access Control, ABAC. Option D, Mandatory Access Control, MAC. The correct answer is Option C, Attribute-Based Access Control, ABAC. Attribute-Based Access Control, ABAC, is an access control model that controls access to objects, using rules that are evaluated according to the attributes of the subject, relevant objects, and attributes of the environment and action. Discretionary access control allows owners to determine who can access their resources, which does not align with this scenario as the access is role-based, not discretionary. Role-based access control is an access control method where access permissions are assigned based on the roles individuals have within an organization. In this scenario, access to patient records is granted based on job roles, which aligns with RBAC. Mandatory access control is a policy-driven access control method, where access decisions are enforced by the system based on predefined policies, rather than individual job roles. Question number 40. What is the fundamental goal of the CIA Triad? Option A, to regulate access to physical facilities and assets. Option B, to ensure the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. Option C, to provide a comprehensive approach to safeguarding information and assets. Option D, to protect against external attacks on information systems. The correct answer is Option B, to ensure the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information. The primary objective of the CIA Triad is to ensure the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information, addressing the core principles of information security. Question number 41. If Joe and Ryan are employing symmetric cryptography for secure communication, and Joe intends to transmit an encrypted message to Ryan, which key should Joe utilize? Option A, the shared symmetric key. Option B, Ryan's private key. Option C, Joe's public key. Option D, Ryan's public key. The correct answer is Option A, the shared symmetric key. In symmetric cryptography, the same key is used for both encryption and decryption. This means Joe and Ryan must securely share a key in advance. Joe would then use this shared key to encrypt the message, and Ryan would use the same shared key to decrypt it. Option B, Ryan's private key, is incorrect. This would be a consideration in asymmetric cryptography, but in symmetric cryptography, there is only one key used for both encryption and decryption. Option C, Joe's public key, is incorrect. Public keys are used in asymmetric cryptography, not in symmetric cryptography. Option D, Ryan's public key, is incorrect. Again, public keys are a feature of asymmetric cryptography. In symmetric cryptography, there is a shared key rather than separate public and private keys. Question number 42. In the context of confidentiality, what does the term sensitivity refer to? Option A, the need for protection assigned to information by its owner. Option B, the harm caused to external stakeholders if information is disclosed or modified. Option C, the health status of an individual. Option D, the ability of information to be accessed only by authorized individuals. The correct answer is Option A, the need for protection assigned to information by its owner. Sensitivity can be considered as the intensity at which the data needs to be secret. If a document has a confidentiality of top secret, it can only be accessible to people with that clearance. Question number 43. Which of the following exemplifies a preventive control? Option A, a backup generator. Option B, an intrusion detection system. Option C, training employees on cybersecurity best practices. Option D, an access control system. The correct answer is Option D, an access control system. Functions of security controls are directive controls, deterrent controls, preventive controls, compensating controls, detective controls, corrective controls, and recovery controls. Directive controls are the mandatory controls that are implemented to monitor the regulations. Deterrent controls are deployed to discourage the violation of a security function, and it helps to reduce the chances of a deliberate attack. Preventive controls are used to prevent or avoid security incidents in the organization. Compensating controls are the alternative methods that support the requirement of actual security control implemented. Detective controls are used to detect and alert unauthorized or unwanted activities within the organization. Corrective controls are used to remediate or mitigate the effect of a security incident. Recovery controls are deployed to recover and restore the system to normal condition after the security incident. An access control system is an example of a preventive control, as it is designed to prevent unauthorized access to systems and data. Question number 44. The most prevalent physical security measure utilized to safeguard high security areas is Option A, access control systems. Option B, video surveillance. Option C, perimeter fencing. Option D, all of the above. The correct answer is Option A, access control systems. Access control systems are the most common physical security control used to secure high security areas. They typically use a combination of technologies such as biometrics, smart cards, and keypads to control who can enter and exit the area. Video surveillance and perimeter fencing are also important components of high security areas, but access control systems play a key role in controlling access. Question number 45. Which one among the following represents a data handling policy procedure? Option A, transform. Option B, encode. Option C, destroy. Option D, collect. The correct answer is Option C, destroy. The data handling procedures are classify, categorize, label, store, encrypt, backup, and destroy. Question number 46. Which category of control centers on formulating and implementing security policies, standards, and guidelines? Option A, administrative controls. Option B, physical controls. Option C, security controls. Option D, technical controls. The correct answer is Option A, administrative controls. Administrative controls encompass the design and implementation of security policies, standards, guidelines, and procedures to ensure the effective management and governance of security within an organization. Question number 47. In which cloud service model does the IT department bear the smallest responsibility for overseeing and upkeeping the underlying infrastructure and software? Option A, on-premises deployment. Option B, Infrastructure as a Service, IaaS. Option C, Platform as a Service, PaaS. Option D, Software as a Service, SaaS. The correct answer is Option D, Software as a Service, SaaS. In the context of cloud computing, The Software as a Service (SaaS) model provides fully functional applications or software over the Internet, managed by a third-party provider. In this model, the IT department has the least responsibility for managing and maintaining the underlying infrastructure and software. The provider takes care of infrastructure, platform, and application management, while the IT department primarily focuses on user access, data security, and integration with other systems. Option A, on-premises deployment, refers to running applications and maintaining infrastructure within an organization's own data center. In this scenario, the IT department has full responsibility for managing and maintaining both the infrastructure and software. Option B, in the infrastructure as a service model, the IT department has more responsibility for managing and maintaining the infrastructure components, such as virtual machines, storage, and networking. Option C, in the platform as a service model, the IT department has more responsibility than SaaS, as they need to manage the underlying platform and infrastructure, while the provider takes care of the application software. Question number 48. Which of the listed security protocols is employed to safeguard communications over the Internet, thwarting eavesdropping, tampering, and message forgery? Option A, Telnet. Option B, SSH. Option C, FTP. Option D, HTTP. The correct answer is Option B, SSH. SSH creates a secure communication method to interact with any system that has been configured. Question number 49. Which of the following exemplifies a detective controls? Option A, encryption of sensitive data. Option B, a backup generator. Option C, an intrusion detection system. Option D, an access control system. The correct answer is Option C, an intrusion detection system. An access control system is an example of a detective control. It is a monitoring system that detects suspicious activities and generates alerts when they are detected. Question number 50. What is the main objective of a post-incident review? Option A, to evaluate the effectiveness of security controls. Option B, to identify vulnerabilities in business processes. Option C, to identify opportunities for improving the incident response plan. Option D, to document the incident and its resolution. The correct answer is Option C, to identify opportunities for improving the incident response plan. The primary purpose of a post-incident review is to identify opportunities for improving the incident response plan. This involves evaluating the effectiveness of the response procedures, identifying any weaknesses or gaps in the plan, and defining the procedures for addressing them. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time with us today on Certification Terminal. We truly appreciate your support. If you found this video informative and adds value to your certification journey, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel if you haven't done yet. It helps us continue to create more content like this. If you did not watch our previous videos on ISC Square Certified Cybersecurity, please do visit and watch from our videos section. We value your feedback and would love to hear your thoughts, questions, or suggestions. Please leave a comment below, and let's continue the conversation. If you could also tell us which other certifications you are interested to pursue, we'll certainly prioritize those certifications Q&A. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our latest releases. You'll be the first to know when we upload new content. Click that share button below and please send it to someone who could benefit from this content. Whether it's a friend, family member, or colleague, sharing is caring, and it helps our community grow. Remember, every share counts, so let's spread the knowledge far and wide. Thank you again for being part of our Certification Terminal community. Your support means the world to us, and we're excited to have you with us on this journey.